This is Christine Brown, and while I have to listen to this podcast as my motherly duty, you have the choice not to. My sons, and of course Michael, sometimes say some naughty things when they're trying to be funny, but really, they're just being stupid. You still want to listen? Go right ahead. I am not your mother.
Welcome back to all of you who are still with us, and welcome for the first time if this is your first episode. If it is, that's kind of weird that you're starting at week 10, but we forgive you. Like I said, this is week 10 of the 2001 NFL season, bestowed upon us by our Lord and Savior Thomas Patrick Brady Jr. Did I get that right? I can never remember the order of the middle name.
I think so. I feel like you should be the third. It just sounds better.
Yeah.
Thomas Brady, the third.
Wasn't there a player who was the second?
Yeah.
Oh, Gardner Minshew, the second.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Philip Dorsett, right?
I thought he was the third.
I don't know.
I think he's the third, which makes sense, but you don't often see the second. But apparently it's because it's not his father's name, it's his grandfather's name. So he's technically not a junior, but he is the second.
Yeah. That's from the blog.
Yes, that's right. That's where I learned it from. So, if you want to learn more about Gardner Flint Minshew, is that right? Middle name Flint? You can go to brownbrosports.com and read Gregory's perusings about it.
Loved it.
But today we're going to be talking about what I'm going to posit as the most important loss of the Patriots dynasty.
Whoa, that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
Hot takes right out the bat.
That's right. We're coming out to shoot hot, boys.
Why do you say that?
So, because this game, we hadn't actually introduced you against where the greatest show on turf visited Old Foxborough Stadium. Coming in red hot 8-1 against the Pats, who are just over 500 at 5-4. This was the game, I think, that gave the Patriots the confidence that they could compete at a high level. Even though they didn't win the game, I think they took away from it that they were able to hang with the elite of the NFL. You disagree, Greg?
Yep.
Why?
There's no, you don't lose games and be like, that's a good loss. Doesn't happen.
Well, what about that?
What said in the after the post game locker room stuff?
But
definitely not congratulating them for losing this game. But
Greg, do you remember the Kansas City game where the team basically lost their spirit? And then that last drive where Gronk got a touchdown and whatnot turned the whole season around because Belichick said that he saw fire in the team. That was a good loss.
We're on to Cincinnati game. That's a good one, too.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit.
Okay, I agree, but let's give it to the listeners, okay?
It's all hindsight, because there's plenty of teams over the years that have lost terribly. And done
okay, fine. Every loss sucks. Jesus Christ. Forget about story. Every loss sucks.
Oh, you are in a rare mood. Good God.
And I told you.
In Hollywood.
Sorry, guys.
Do I have a mute button for Mike? I do. Okay, just checking.
You should use it frequently today, I feel like.
I might.
It's a horn.
All right, so let's talk about the Rams then, who I will still I'm gonna stick with my take out of the bat. I think this was a positive in the long run in terms of the direction of the Patriots dynasty. So I'm gonna put them on the right direction. So what?
I'm sticking with my take too. Your take is stupid.
Well, that's fine. Nobody really cares what you
I
think
mean,
about.
I like the story of it, but Greg won me over. Every loss blows, and there's no good that can come from it ever.
What about
people that lose in life? Yeah, they're losers.
Was it 2004-ish? Oh, actually, here's a better one. The Patriots lose in 2006 in the AFC Championship game to the Colts. And that opens the eyes of the coaching staff that Brady needs help. And they go out and get Welker and Moss and light the league on fire. Was that
and accomplish nothing at the same time?
Well, I wouldn't say nothing. You just accomplish exactly everything.
sour spot there. See again. Scratch this from the podcast, man.
Yeah,
Rare mood.
I'm just gonna delete your entire audio from this one. I think it's gonna be
Nah,
really
it's fine. Can I just hang back and drink my rum?
do it.
Okay.
So yeah, speaking of the Rams, they will finish the season 14-2. First in the NFC West, obviously. Their only losses this season were to the 7-9 Saints randomly in Week 7, and then against the 9-7 Bucks in Week 11, which is directly after this game. So I think this may have also led to the loss directly after this game, just because of how hard it was played and how close it was. I'm sticking with it too.
I'll give you that. That makes sense to me, unless Greg can sway me on that.
I'm sure he'll try.
Were those divisional games? What division were they in?
NFC West. That's a good question because that was before the realignment.
Yeah, because I feel like I don't know why I always think they're in the same division as the Falcons.
So so that NFC West back then was Rams, 49ers, Saints, Falcons, Panthers. And so the final standings, Rams obviously 14-2, like we said. 49ers 12-4, and then nobody else above 500. Saints were 7-9, Falcons 7-9, Panthers 1-15, which we will see them later in the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this was, like we touched on before, part of the greatest show on turf era. The offense would score 503 points this year, which was 7th most all time at the time, which was, I think, more impressive because this was before the explosion of offensive production. You can see, rookie quarterbacks these days throwing for 50 touchdowns, but back then that was unheard of. So, but as part of this, greatest show on turf, the reason it was called that is because the year before this, they put up 540 points, which was 3rd all time at the time. And the year before that, in 99, they put up 526 points, which was 4th all time at the time. So they're putting up top 10 all-time scoring numbers every year for 3 years in a row. And as part of that, in this, it was alluded to by one of the commentators that the Rams had scored, coming into this game, 31 touchdowns, and they had only punted 23 times on the season coming into the game. And so I went down a bit of a rabbit hole today at lunch and forgot to eat lunch because of it. But I decided that I would look up how many times teams have finished with more touchdowns than punts on a season. And there were 34 of them, believe it or not. And I'm pretty sure you could probably name maybe half of them off the top of your head. But in terms of the punt differential, the punt touchdown differential, if you will, how many more touchdowns than punts there were, who would you guess would be at the top of that list?
With the most punts or the least amount of punts?
No, the most more touchdowns than punts, like the biggest positive difference.
Patriots, 07.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That is correct. They had 75 touchdowns, which is, I think, 2nd all time to that. Was it 2013 Broncos, was it? 2013 Broncos had 76 touchdowns on the year. The 07 Pats had 75. But the difference in punting was that Broncos team punted 66 times that year, so they're only plus 10. The Patriots in 07 punted 45 times, so they were a plus 30 on the season in terms of touchdowns to punts.
Mike, thoughts on punters?
I love them. So I'm just enjoying my Oak Heart rum and listening to this fabulous conversation about
beautiful.
punting.
Beautiful.
What was that?
Is that a free plug?
It can be. I mean, we can work it out.
Tell me about Oak Heart.
It's not bad.
Smooth?
It does. It goes out. You can sip it. You can chug it if you really want to. I don't recommend that. And, you can find it for like $10-12. It's not too bad.
Does it help ease the pain?
It's making this show go a lot better.
Oh, boy. You say that now, but we're not even halfway done.
I know.
Here's a hot take. In 10 years, that number is going to skyrocket. More teams in the NFL than not will have more touchdowns than punts.
So, yes, I think you're right because to that point, of the top 4, 2 of those were the last 2 years. Kansas City number 2 last year with a plus 26, and Baltimore this year plus 23.
Yeah, the analytics say you shouldn't punt.
Yep. Yeah, because I think
way more infrequently than they do.
Yeah, actually, both teams in this upcoming Super Bowl, the Chiefs and the 49ers, are both on this list.
Yep.
Now, this will not be upcoming by the time you listen to this, y'all. So if we say anything stupid or inaccurate, well, tweet at us. If we have a Twitter, then
We do.
Sweet. I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going.
You're going to the Super Bowl?
I'm going to Miami.
Oh, well, that's almost cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say that you're big balling because the Super Bowl tickets are going for like $9,000 at the moment.
I know. What is that all about?
We got the Airbnb like around the time of Antonio Brown being signed.
Bold.
And then it didn't quite work out, but
No?
it was like on a round trip flight for $150, so I might as well spend a weekend in Miami.
That sounds pretty good.
Love it.
I mean, it'd be awesome if the Pats were playing, but
They would be, but they're not. But that would have been a whole lot more expensive because you can't go down there and not go to the Super Bowl.
that was a major concern of mine.
Take out that second mortgage. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Andy, was one of the teams that you're mentioning the Peyton Manning's Colts? Because I remember one year it was a running gag that punter just never did anything. Do you remember that year? The Colts are on here a couple times. They're number 14 with a plus 12 in 2004. And then, let's see, where else? 28 and 29, back-to-back seasons of 07 and 06. They're both plus 2. Oh, all right.
Oh, and they're also 32nd with a plus 1. So they're on here a bunch. Yeah, they definitely score more touchdowns than punts often.
That's punts.
In the Manning era.
Punts.
All right, I'm glad you boys found that as fascinating as I did. That was definitely worth a lunch break. Cool.
Well, I can tell that you didn't eat lunch.
You can what?
I can tell that you didn't eat lunch.
Oh, thanks.
I said that I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Oh, you're very welcome. I know how much you like punters and punt stats, so I put that together just for you.
Thank you. And I loved it. Every minute of it. Every second of it. For all the people that are still listening, let us know how you feel about that whole conversation.
Yeah, fuck it. You can tweet us at Pat's Dynasty Info on Twitter. There you go.
Ooh, that's sexy. Especially that info part.
Come get us, yeah. All right. The Rams, the architect of this greatest show on turf, Mike Martz. He was pretty good. It was 6 seasons as a head coach from 2000 to 2005. So he wasn't really the architect of this, I guess, now that I'm saying that. Because this was already in place when he took over, wasn't it? So that's great. He kind of like drove this team to the ground a little bit. So he was fired after week 5 in 2005. So he didn't make it through the full season.
And I can add to that probably a reason why he petered out, because I wrote down that he had a comment that the Rams hadn't faced a team like the Patriots with as speedy of receivers as they have. And I love Troy Brown. I love David Patton. But if that's what you're putting out into the world, it makes sense that you might be out of a job soon.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. He wasn't. But was that something that he said? I thought that was more on the defensive coordinator.
Oh, I thought it was him. I take back everything I just said if it was the defensive coordinator. Everything. Yeah, I apologize for that.
I had that written down as a Lovie Smith quote.
No. I say Martz said they had. Now, I was kind of half paying attention, so I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure. Greg, could you look that up, please?
I'm on it.
Yeah, it was the quote was Patriots wide receivers present the biggest challenge of the season, according to Lovie Smith and this defense.
Oh, see, because the quote that I had was that they hadn't faced a team with receivers like the Patriots yet.
Yeah, I think I think that was the continuation of the quote, and how fast
whatever,
they
dude.
were.
Maybe they both fucking said it, okay? Maybe they both said it.
Maybe neither of them said it. Maybe we were lied to by Joe Theismann.
I mean, he could, yeah.
I mean, you never know. He doesn't look like a trustworthy guy.
I can't find it. I'm looking. I don't Google, you know?
Alexa, who said the following quote? So yeah, those are the only notable coaches, I think. There was Ken Zampese, who was he was a wide receiver coach, only really notable in air quotes because he's the son of the former Patriots offensive coordinator, Ernie Zampese, back in 98, 99. So I don't know how much of an effect he had on that. Although these commentators were all about this wide receiving core.
Oh, Andy.
What, the Rams?
Yeah.
Wait, what happened? Greg's chiming in.
Well, if Andy's about to go on his fucking weekly rant about the commentators.
I really like them.
I like them.
Yeah.
Look, you know what?
Yeah.
I think this is a rarity, but I don't have a football or not football because I think I got everything that they were talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought it was Mike Patrick, Paul McGuire, and Joe Theismann. And I thought Joe Theismann was the original Tony Romo. Like his points were on point.
Yeah.
He was pointing things out before they happened.
A little fun.
Nice. Yeah. He was having a good time with people.
That's what makes a good commentator is like just having fun.
Yeah, but also knowing the game too. Like it's not like listening to Dan Deerdorf being like, I can't understand why they're throwing a flag. Like Joe Theismann actually knew the rules and could explain them to you in real time as it's happening instead of 20 minutes later when he's been told by, whatever research staff he has, the Greg Browns of the world.
I mean, the only thing I had was that he sticks them right between the 2 and the 8, and I kind of figured what that meant pretty quickly.
You figured it out? Did you like the comment about the referees having those East German surplus microphones that aren't working again?
No, I missed that. What's going on there?
Yeah. Well, did you not hear the referees? Because neither did anybody else because their microphones
yeah.
cutting in and out.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
they did say that Bledsoe throws a more catchable ball. How do you feel about that as a Bledsoe stan?
Well, I mean, they also said this, so we can debate how good they actually were because one of the quotes was Brady just ripped off, and I say ripped off because he looked like he was actually running. It was like a 10-yard run for first down. And one of the announcers says that's one element that Brady adds to the offense that you won't see with Bledsoe, the ability to gain first downs running the football. I don't know what kind of statement that was.
Is that a shot at Drew Bledsoe for getting injured instead of getting a first down and
I didn't
a sheer blood vessel in his leg?
I didn't take it that way, but
that's some shade.
That is funny in retrospect. Now that we know that Bledsoe's okay, in retrospect, pretty hilarious.
Hell yeah. So if we want to talk about the presentation, this is really the first primetime game of the Patriots dynasty. And it was the first appearance of the yellow first down line.
Yeah, and you basically took my best of the game because I didn't even know that. I wrote down, is this the first time we've actually seen this? I wasn't sure, but I guess it is.
With these Patriots, yeah, because apparently it was owned by, I think ESPN actually put it together. I have the quote here somewhere. Yeah, so this is here it is. Oh, it's CBS, rather. Excuse me. You knew immediately it wasn't the usual third or fourth string AFC telecast on CBS when the ball was spotted after the play and the yellow 1st and 10 line appeared for the first time this season on the telecast of a Patriots game. It's usually reserved for the key national games because of the $25,000 per game expense.
That is some foresight.
Yeah, so
dropping 25 G's for a line.
Yeah, but now everybody uses it.
Yeah, but now how do you feel about, because I love that yellow line because I'm a lazy viewer.
Absolutely.
And plus it creates like great conversations in bars and at friends' homes. But How does it compare with remember the hockey puck that used to like glow and it was like on fire?
Yeah.
Why did that never stick?
Well, because like, hockey fans are like macho, like, oh, hockey. It's
Yeah.
That was for the casual fan who hockey fans hate.
I don't think there are any casual hockey fans is the problem. It's like saying like casual lacrosse fans. That's not a thing.
They were offended by the glowing puck, you know?
I can see that, yeah.
It filled them.
So, but yeah, I mean, on that note, watching games now, I realize the things that I think when they first came out, I used to hate, but I don't anymore. Like when they actually put the down and distance, like they display it on the field, with that like arrow below where they all line up.
Right.
And I kind of miss that because I can never quite find it in time on these telecasts because they only show it like before the game, and then it goes away when the play happens. So I'm like, as soon as the play ends, I look up to find out like what down that was because I've already forgotten because I have ADD, and I have no idea what down or distance it is.
That doesn't happen to me. That sounds like a personal problem.
Well, that's because I watch the games though.
Oh, shots fired there. But let's go back to the greater issue here. And
I'm watching the game as we speak.
I know.
15 minutes
you might get to the end of the game by the time we finish the podcast. I mean, we'll see. But,
not at this rate.
But that is also something to talk about maybe for another time. But you throw around ADD. Is this what do you mean by that? Is it a flippant remark, or are you talking about actual problems here? Because if that's the case, then we're good. But if not, don't throw that shit around, Andy.
It's both. I can say it because I have it.
Okay, fine.
I can joke about it because I am one.
All right, now your tone makes me feel bad. So
I can joke about it because I abuse prescription drugs that I'm not prescribed to.
Oh, all right.
Let's give me another one of those episodes.
Sorry I brought it up. I don't know what to say.
Well, how about this one?
Yeah.
It's just in my head. What do you think about if they were to like come up with technology to make that line visible to the players?
So well, all right. So I'll run with this.
That's a good question.
I think here you go. Here's what you need to do. It can't just be because I think if it's gonna be that, it's gonna be like lasers and shit, right?
Right.
So that So if you're gonna be doing lasers and shit in the field, you may as well just get rid of the sticks and just like laser measure, like put a chip in the ball or some bullshit like that, and then have both the line of scrimmage be like laser etched on the field or whatever, and or laser displayed. You're probably not going to be etching anything, but then also the first down is exactly 10 yards away to the millimeter, and so when they put the ball down, as long as it breaks the
Andy,
line,
I gotta cut you off. I gotta cut you off.
The first down.
You can't talk about this now because
then you get rid of referees.
No. What you got to do is
commentators.
Dude. You got to keep it under wraps, and this is why. I want you to patent this idea. I don't know how to do all that shit, but you just do it. Then you go into Shark Tank, and then you pitch this shit, and then you license it.
Okay.
Because that's what they tell me, because I've been watching it recently.
I would need a name for this company, though.
It's got to be something hip.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That could also be translated to like classrooms and
it could be like laser
circuses.
line, but with no vowels.
Or like a hashtag laser line.
LZRLYN.
Yeah.
Oh, done. All right.
So
anybody's listening, don't patent this.
Yeah, it's a really good fucking idea.
Because I mean, we're talking about this probably 6 months in the past from when people are listening, but I'm pretty sure I won't have patented it by then.
What about here's another idea. It's a little out of left field, but maybe it works. I don't know. I just thought of it. What if you get tackled, the ball hits the ground, and then the grass self paints itself, so that this line gets painted real time on the field.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad.
You know what I mean? And then and then it paints itself green again. You need a lot of paint for this idea, but it seems more reasonable.
What about let's play off of that then? If instead of the grass painting itself, because I feel like that'd be a lot of effort to ask on grass.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
We just hire homeless children with paint rollers to run out and just
boy.
paint lines every
boy.
time there's a first down.
Oh boy.
That was my original thought when this whole thing started. We're not homeless children, but I was like, we're paying like so
I
much
don't know,
money.
man.
Clarification.
I don't know where this is going. This is going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm out of rum.
The technology already exists. I mean, you see tennis, and they do that zoom in thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then we got like old dudes carrying chains.
Yeah.
You know, it's like ridiculous. It's $1 billion league.
That are
And
probably 10-ish yards apart, as long as there's no
Right.
kinks in the chain, and as long as it's straight, and as long as it's put down in the correct spot
It
initially.
is a pretty basic system now we bring this up.
Oh yeah.
But do you think it adds to the intrigue?
I think it adds
so-
to the old timey charm, just like the
It's-
referees wearing hats.
And they're like stirrups or whatever that shit is on their little.
Looks like they're baseball players who got lost.
Right. All right.
But I
Well, I
was
think we. Oh, go ahead.
there is a certain skill to it. Like, as far as can the players see it? Some players do have that, like, internal, I know where the line is. Like the Kevin Fox and
Kevin
the Troy
Falk. Yep,
where they'll catch it and they'll fall forward exactly where they need to.
that's true.
So you don't want to get rid of that skill, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And as Andy pointed out, Drew Bledsoe did not have that skill.
No.
Well, that wasn't me. That was your quote, bud.
Dude, I don't know what has been said so far, but I will say this: they mentioned that half of the blood in Bledsoe's body bled out.
Yes. Yeah,
The fuck?
that was gonna be my worst. Yeah, but they got it all back in.
Yeah, they did. They pumped it back in. Where did they find the blood? Did they like scrape it off the grass? I mean, was it
Yeah,
all
I mean,
internal?
Did they use his blood?
I
Or
have
did they just
no
be
idea.
like, fuck,
man.
let's
There's-
just find somebody else.
I just remember
replace it?
Belichick saying he might be out for like 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, he was out a little bit longer than that, but that's okay.
Man, half the blood in his body. That's fantastic. Modern medicine.
Yeah. Oh, so actually, speaking of Bledsoe's injury, they had an article in the Globe this week before that talking about what the injury actually was. And the quote is, what he did have was a sheared blood vessel that led to a condition known as hemothorax, in which blood, not air, enters the lungs. Jesus fucking Christ. In due time, the blood was removed via tube from the lungs and redirected back into his system. Honestly,
Oh.
the things you can learn.
That's insane.
It's
Dude, so
fucking
he was
crazy.
like part fish for a little bit. Like he was like breathing blood as opposed to air. That's like some superhero shit.
Yeah.
I love him.
So, I mean, I'm assuming it's only happened in one of his lungs, right?
Oh, how does that work?
Maybe it was both. Well, I mean,
Greg, can you look it up for us, please?
fact check.
What was my heartfish syndrome?
Heartfish syndrome? I think it's lungfish.
Still lung?
So, and on top of that, I know we talked about it at the beginning about like when it happened. We're talking about whether or not he had a concussion. And there was another quote in this same article talking about that he probably did. So the Bledsoe case is interesting because it demonstrates the limited ability of even the most trained doctors to make accurate judgments in a hurry. Dr. Sarens was their doctor at the time, was standing just a few feet away from where Bledsoe was hit. He examined Bledsoe immediately for any signs of a concussion and decided there were none. It continues. But Bledsoe did last just one more series before Belichick pulled him when it was obvious he wasn't in full command of his faculties. I had communication with some of my teammates, and based on that, they went to Bill and said maybe I should go out, Bledsoe explained. What concerned his teammates, Damon Hewitt and Mark Edwards, was that their quarterback didn't really know what plays he was running.
Sounds like a concussion.
that the team doctor, who literally was standing a few feet away from when he got hit, couldn't diagnose correctly.
Oh, he probably just got his bell rung.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say this, and I don't want to bring the mood down, but it has to be addressed because this was just released, and people listening to this will have a little bit more time to take it in.
Sure.
But in talking about getting your bell rung, which we've all seen, like concussions and whatever, in our playing days, is previous listeners will know my playing days.
All three of them.
Right. But they were mean, and I was playing cornerback / linebacker. Don't get me started. But Yeah, with concussions becoming like a bigger thing, there was the Aaron Hernandez documentary, which I think a lot of it is already common knowledge. But we also see the Antonio Brown stuff kind of escalating pretty quickly since the last few episodes. And then also in one of the articles that you posted, it was talking about Leon Gray, who kind of, withered away and passed in his like apartment, which I think he was in his 40s. And there was some suspicions about what led to that. There's another player who passed homeless on the street by himself. And then I was looking at an article on Antonio Brown and the Steelers. There was like, a Hall of Fame center, forget his name, but he passed sort of homeless and had problems, and they were just the teams kind of turned their back on them. So what do you think about all that? I mean, and seeing something like that happen to Bledsoe, that could have probably, or at least like it could have changed his life a bit, like it did, I think, for Antonio Brown. What do you think about, like, because I think we've talked about concussions a little bit in this season alone. It kind of seemed like it was already popping up a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think I noticed even in this game, I think they flash up a list of all the injuries that had happened in this game to the Rams alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Aeneas Williams was on that list as having suffered a concussion. But then, like a few plays later, he was in there making the tackle, or he was in there on the blitz putting his helmet in Tom Brady's chest.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so he's still out there leading with his head even after he had been diagnosed with a concussion. They let him back in there to continue playing. So I think it's like, just looking back at it now from what we know is going on these days with the information that we have, and like how much more research has been put into it, especially with CTE and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a different tone to it than just like, rub some dirt on it and get back out there.
Right.
Which seems like that's what it used to be.
Oh, it definitely was. I'm wondering, I mean, obviously they're taking steps to kind of prevent some of this stuff. Maybe this year they're talking about removing kickoffs altogether and whatnot. And, I don't know if that's good or bad. But do you think that it's just prevalent to this? And I know that it's like guys banging their heads against each other, but like I hear like soccer players have this. So is it like inherently a sports thing, or do you think it's primarily like, and obviously we don't know at the moment, but.
Yeah. I think, obviously I'm just making shit up now,
sure.
But I think that it's probably prevalent in the majority of sports, because like they say, you can get this, like they're seeing CTE in soccer players from heading the ball and shit like that, which is a big part of soccer. But I think that I feel that sports like football, and probably to a certain extent maybe like rugby and things like that, those collision sports, hockey, those sorts of things, I think you'll see it like worse cases of CTE in the future. Like I think you'll see it in all sports, but it'll be more severe in the ones where there's like collisions all the time. Like I've offensive and defensive linemen, that's kind of what they do every play. They just bash heads with each other. So I don't know how you fix it either, because hitting is part of the game. And it's not like it has to be these big hits you take. It's all of the hits that kind of pile up is what it seems to be where the research is going with this.
Right.
You don't have to solve it, but you can do things like give the players lifetime health insurance.
Right.
Boom.
Yep.
True.
The amount of money that we make when you're not doing that right now.
Yeah. Especially with the money that they're making hand over fist. It's not like they can't afford it.
The teams don't give a shit once they cut you, if
Right.
you're not performing. So like require them to give them health insurance.
Yep.
For basically sacrificing their body so you can make all that money. Like that's an easy solution that doesn't take any doctors or research or anything, right?
It's true. Yeah.
I mean,
and
that's fair, yeah.
continues the sport too, because I
Exactly.
think
it shows respect to the players.
Yep. But I think I don't know how true it is or what the numbers are, but there's been stories out there how youth football and participation in it is declining rapidly.
Right.
So does it get to a point where you just don't have the same pool of players to choose from?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that. I mean, obviously, it's always going to offer an opportunity for anybody who doesn't have any other way to like make an income or make a big splash like that, and it can kind of provide opportunities. But yeah, I think it does affect. I mean, that's a good idea. I've always been in the camp of like we probably didn't know all this info, years past, but that banging your head against somebody else is not the greatest thing inherently.
Yeah.
And it's their choice. But like Greg said, maybe that would, fix something. Obviously, these people are putting their body through the ringer in their minds, but, I think a lot of them do that for their families, and it's a conscious decision. But at least make it a little bit more humane while we're trying to clean it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I don't know. And for anybody who's listening, we didn't solve shit with that conversation, and I don't want to hear it.
So you can tweet at Mike.
No Twitter. Thank you.
No Twitter? All right. Yeah, that asshole.
Yeah, no social media.
All right. So, oh, yeah. I was going to try to pull a Drew Bledsoe quote out of my thing, but the only comment I have on Drew Bledsoe is that he bled out half the blood in his body.
All right. Well, glad I derailed everything.
That's not true. So, well, I think we can get to it in a little bit, but so what were your kind of initial thoughts on this game? Because Mike, I know you were a bit more down on it than I was talking to you before we started this.
Right. I mean, it was interesting because I thought that the first half, overall speaking, we can get into it, but the first half, it kind of seemed like it was a little bit more competitive. Defense was, holding their own. And then sort of in the second half, which I still understand why they would be encouraged after this loss, allegedly. But it kind of seemed like it became the Marshall Faulk show, and it was just run it down their throats every single play until time ran out.
Yeah. So let's just touch on it a little bit. So first quarter, the Patriots on their first drive, Brady throws an interception deep in his own territory. He basically hits Kevin Faulk in the hands with a heater, and it bounces off and it gets picked off. So the Rams start on like inside the 20 and score a touchdown 3 plays later.
Right. And then, I will say it started off pretty well because the game opened with like 2 batted balls that Kurt Warner threw. And then all of a sudden in the third play, he throws a 35-yard pass to Isaac Bruce. And it was like really well covered by Ty Law. So even though it was a good start for the D because they stopped them on that drive, it was tough sledding the whole game.
Yeah. But I think the Pats defense definitely gave Warner trouble. I think this game especially was one that the Patriots brought pressure more than I can ever remember, which against a team with this firepower seems really ballsy to me. But it seemed like they were bringing at least 5 or 6 guys every defensive play from all over the place too. So
talking about stacked team, we haven't like gone over the roster like we usually have, but just looking at it, like Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Ricky Prohl, Trung Candidate, which was like super fast, Marshall Faulk, and that's like offense, but defense, like Dre Bly, Aeneas Williams, London Fletcher, Leonard Little, like this team was stacked.
Yeah. Oh, they had some big fucking names. And like all those people you just mentioned went to the Pro Bowl. Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Marshall Faulk, they were all Pro Bowlers. Faulk and Kurt Warner were first team All Pros. And Marshall Faulk was basically a video game at this point. Was this the year he was on the cover of Madden? It was around this time. Maybe in like 99, 2000. It's got to be
probably the year after, right? Because the curse usually gets you.
Yeah, so he was probably on 2000, be my guess. Greg, stat check?
I'm on it.
But this was, I mean, talking about punts versus TDs, this is another rabbit hole I went down. Marshall Faulk in this season outscored the kicker 128 points to 127, which is hard to do because the kickers get, a point every time you score a touchdown, plus all the field goals and all that jazz. So out of the top 20 scores of all time in the league, 15 of those are kickers.
Wow.
Which, which doesn't seem right. And I would tell you who they were if this page would load. But
2003 Madden cover.
really,
all right,
so,
so quite a
even
ways away.
afterwards, yeah. But yeah, the only top 20, the only players who aren't kickers are actually running backs, surprisingly. So LaDainian Tomlinson, in terms of points in a single season, like points scored, LaDainian Tomlinson first place in 2006. That was the year he had 31 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Was it rushing touchdowns? I don't know if they were all rushing touchdowns, but yeah, he had
Might
like
have been
some
overall.
ridiculous amount. Yeah. But so he scored 186 points. Second
Sean
place
Alexander on there.
he's second in 2005 with 168 points. So he's a distant second. He scored 28 touchdowns.
Wow.
And then it's kickers, David Akers, Gary Anderson, Jeff Wilkins, Priest Holmes in sixth place. He scored 27 touchdowns. Mark Mosley, who I don't actually know who the fuck Mark Mosley is. He doesn't have a position marked here. He is also a kicker.
Let's edit
83.
that one out and just like pretend that like do the research and then pretend that we knew what we were talking about. And,
He's from the 83 Washington Redskins. So there you go.
Who was that? Mosley?
Yeah, Mark
Oh,
Mosley.
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, you know him.
Yep.
He was 62 of 63 on field goals. Oh, no, extra points.
Mark Mosley Jr.
Oh, sorry. But then in eighth place was this year's Marshall Faulk with 160 points, which is out of control.
That's beastly.
He's pretty good.
Yeah. So, yeah, he like you said, I mean, this is why the second half looked like the Marshall Faulk show, because the whole season was the Marshall Faulk show.
Yeah, I also made the note, and I don't know if there's any correlation, but the way that Marshall Faulk was used in this game, it sort of very much beat up the Patriots. And this was before the Patriots incorporated the scat back. So it was pretty much just like, run up the middle, kind of beat people down. Do you think that playing a guy like Marshall Faulk sort of like changed his philosophy? Because I feel like as the years continued, the Patriots now are sort of known for those like flex backs that are good at doing a million things. Vereen, all the way to like James White. So do you think
Danny
that like
Woodhead.
Yep, exactly. So do you think that like I was thinking about it, I'm like, did this game maybe introduce that into his mind, or at least like facing them a couple of times?
Maybe a little bit, but I think they already had Kevin Faulk on the team.
I know, but he was like, I think basic. I think.
Yeah, I think this was, and I think this happened with not just the Patriots, where because it's a copycat league, and now I think people started to make their wide receivers be more of a receiving threat. But having said that, I mean, the Patriots from week one have been splitting their fullback out wide in 5 wide receiver sets.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
and actually throwing it to them.
Right. I mean, I feel like that's more gimmick than anything, but it is the start of something. I mean, so who is the originator of that? Does it go back to, I don't know, like the West Coast offense when it was instilled, or like who started that like scat back thing?
That's a great question. I don't know.
All right, again, we're going to pause. We're going to get our information straight, and we'll come right back.
That's what we'll just have our listeners tell us on Twitter, because nobody loves to tell you when you're wrong like Twitter does. So,
okay,
if you know the answer, tweet at Mike Mello.
I don't have Twitter, man. That's how I escape this bullshit. No social media.
So, well, here's what we're gonna do. So you can tweet at our Pat's Dynasty info, but make sure it's made out to Mike Mello.
And I won't read it because I don't give a damn.
Oh yeah, well we'll read it to you, so don't worry about it. It's cool.
I won't listen because I don't give a damn. I'm barely paying attention now. So
live reactions.
Yeah, maybe eventually we will be live, and then maybe I'll give a damn. Maybe if somebody calls in eventually and we get that whole thing set up, maybe I'll care. That's some human contact.
Right there. We have the technology. All right, we'll do that just for you.
So eventually, when these become live shows,
if we get Lee Johnson on, would you listen to him?
I don't. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I was a big fan. Way back. I mean, his career started before I was born. I was still a fan. I was in the womb kind of pulling for the guy. So
I bet you were.
I would be into having that conversation.
Good.
And trying his like mustard sauce. That was him, right?
I think so. Fuck, I don't remember. Was that Ken Walter? It was one of the punters.
All right. Well,
was it even a Patriots punter? I don't remember.
I don't know. Moving on.
It's sausage too, yeah. All right, so so I think you're right about this being a game of two halves. The Patriots hung in the first half because they had 2 interceptions in the first quarter off of Warner. There was a pick 6 by Terrell Buckley, which I don't know why I didn't remember that play happening, but it was a legit play. It was definitely the highlight of the game, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean it was 7-7 at that point.
It's because they lost. I'm having a same effect. I have way more distinct memories of wins.
Oh
than
yeah,
losses.
that's so true. Yeah, because you just put it out of your mind and you move on.
Erase it, and I probably didn't watch any highlights or whenever the team loses, you just ignore it.
Yeah, you don't watch the Pats' 5th quarter or anything like that. You just kind of turn the TV off and walk away.
I've noticed that on a few times.
Yeah, me too. Although going back to the shit on Andy episode from a few weeks ago, I think this is one of the first games that I think I was still at home for. Either I come home for Christmas break or I had stayed home for Christmas. So I do actually remember watching this game.
I will say that the pick 6s that you're talking about, I mean, Warner threw one to Terrell Buckley, like you said, and then the next drive, Warner threw a pick to Teddy Bruschi at like the Rams 40. So you would think that would be a game-defining moment, but it was not.
Well, I think it's just because it was early. It's like watching the Falcons-Pats Super Bowl. Like the Rams were driving up and down the field the entire time, almost like the Colts game earlier in this. Well, both Colts games earlier in this season, where Manning and the Colts could drive all the way up and down the field, but then they'd stall and miss field goals or go for it on 4th down and not get it, sort of thing. And I think that was happening in the first half. Because the Rams threw 2 picks in the first quarter, punted once in the first on their opening drive, missed a field goal in the second quarter, but then they missed the field goal. Pats drive down inside the 5, going to take a 17-7 lead. Instead, Antoine Smith fumbles the ball. Rams get the ball on their own, was it 3-yard line, something like that, 2-3-yard line?
Yeah, I think that's 2, something.
With 2 minutes left in the half and drive 97 yards for a touchdown, averaging 20 yards a play.
Yeah, that was incredible. That swung everything, obviously, and poor Antoine Smith at the time. That sucks, but that 2-minute drill was flawless. It was nasty.
It didn't even look like they were trying. They were huddling up between plays and shit and taking timeouts at random times, but they still it didn't matter. It just felt like the Patriots had done so well up until this point with how much pressure they were getting on Warner, and then as soon as the 2-minute warning hit, they backed off and Warner just carved them to pieces.
Well, I think that the announcers could sense that because I wrote a couple of things like around this time that they were kind of bringing up. And one is that they went into this whole story about Antoine Smith and how nice of a guy he is. It is a pretty crazy story. But apparently he turned down a scholarship to Auburn. He put off college for 3 years to take care of his parents. So I think his grandfather had cancer. His grandmother was going to dialysis. And he worked at a factory for 3 years doing this, put everything off, and then got a scholarship to Houston and, continued on his path. But that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Troy Brown has kind of a similar story, and also David Patton, who was they didn't actually mention this game, but they mentioned a few games talking about him chucking around bags of coffee beans, sacks of coffee beans.
Well, I choose to remember Antoine Smith in this game for his loving heart and not the fumble.
Yeah, it was a brutal fumble.
And then I thought this was pretty hilarious. But there was they were talking about how Brady was the first Patriot quarterback to have over 65% completion passing in 4 straight games. So in the history of the Patriots, they never had a quarterback go over 65% in 4 straight games. That is unbelievable.
Including Drew Bledsoe, who was the savior of the franchise.
Right. That's
But they did
unbelievable.
say that like 2 of those games he was at like 70-something%, and the other 2 he wasn't.
Right. But I still thought it was funny. I mean, the guy played like what, 6 or 7 games at this point. He's already like making some kind of records.
Yeah.
I also thought around this time it was funny, not to shit on Bledsoe, but hey, he did it to himself. So from 93 to like 2000, he only missed 7 games, and the Patriots were 1-6 without him.
Yes.
In 2001 with Brady, at this point they were 5-2. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. Can you name the one win in the 1-6? Can you name the quarterback?
Dude, I want to say it was Zolak.
I believe it was.
And it was like he was like pointing to the gods, and I don't know.
He was hamming it up. I want to say it was against the 49ers, maybe.
Was this a Bledsoe finger thing, or was Zolak the one with the finger? Was that around that time?
With the finger?
Yeah, it was like a broken finger or something like that.
Oh, Bledsoe played through a broken finger.
Oh, okay. I don't remember, but I do remember this game, and Zolak was like freaking out, and
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, Zolak's he's a bit of a nutcase.
Dude, that one game set him up for like the rest of his career, I think. As a commentator, anyway.
I think, well, just being a backup to Drew Bledsoe, I think.
But he had that one sick game.
He did have one sick game. He's got that win, an NFL win under his belt, which is more than any of us can say. So I'll give it to him. All right, let's go to the second half. I thought the third quarter was actually okay. Patriots still in it. It ended 17-10 Rams, and it was 14-10 at the half. So the Rams got a field goal. There was out of 8 drives, no one really went anywhere. It was kind of sloppy. The Warner had the fumbled snap near midfield. He just dropped the snap, and the Patriots recovered. The very next play, Tom Brady under pressure off his back foot chucks an interception to the middle linebacker, whoever the hell that was.
And again, I'm surprised that Bill kept with them. It's not very Bill-like. But again, the alternative is, Bledsoe.
Yeah, well, Well, we'll get to that in a second because I have some thoughts on that. But going into the fourth quarter, the Rams have the ball driving into the third, into the fourth, and they basically just walk down the field and score that touchdown. Warner was getting no pressure on him at this point. I think the defense was a bit gassed. They'd been on the field for so long, and he threw a touchdown to his fullback, which was the fullback's first touchdown. I didn't even write down his name because I didn't care at this point. So that makes it 24-10 Rams. And at this point, you're thinking it's over. But Brady immediately responds with, I think all 6 plays were passing plays. Like they just spread it out wide, 5 wide, and just started chucking the ball over the yard. And Brady drives him down with a touchdown to Patton in the back of the end zone, which kind of had a feel of that same touchdown to Patton that he would throw in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of that back of the end zone fade, but to the other corner this time. But then, like, the next Rams drive was the last drive of the game. Because I think they got the ball back with 6 or 7 minutes left. And
before even getting into that, though, I feel like the announcers touched on this, and it was, to be fair, the first time that the Patriots sort of opened up the playbook a little bit and allowed Brady to throw more than like a 5-yard pass. In getting his first opportunity to sort of do that, even after his interceptions or whatever, pretty impressive drive, very quick. And it was,
it felt very Brady-esque of what you know of him now. Whereas some of the earlier mistakes, like the interceptions that he was throwing, didn't feel like the guy that we know and love at this point.
Well, and they put up the stat where it was to prove that point where they had no big plays because they were dinking and dunking, maybe that's all.
It was plays of over 10 yards or something like that. Yep. And the Rams had 22, I think, and the Patriots had 4.
Yep.
And it was halfway through the fourth. It was before this fourth quarter drive by Brady. And I think almost all of the plays on that drive, all 6 of them were over 10 yards for the most part.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
Yeah, but like you said, the Rams get the ball back, and the Patriots defense just can't get off the field on third down. I think the Rams converted 3 or 4 maybe on the drive and just kept the ball for the last 6 minutes of the game.
6
ended
minutes.
up being
I thought it was like 7.5, almost 8.
it may have been even longer than that. Yeah. I have the log here. Let's see when they got the ball. They got the ball back with 7.5 minutes left. 7:37.
Yeah, and it was brutal.
Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Marshall Falk 7-yard run. Marshall Falk 4-yard run. Trunk Candidate 1-yard run. Kurt Warner to Marshall Falk for 2 yards. Kurt Warner, Marshall Falk for 18 yards. Marshall Falk run for 8 yards. -1 yards, 9 yards. Kurt Warner runs for no gain, fumbles it, but recovered by Trunk Candidate.
Andy, you're going to put the listeners to sleep
as 12
as
yards
I
left.
was about to when I was watching this damn game.
Couldn't get off the field. And then I think the backbreaker was 3rd and 4, 2:22 left. Like you still have the 2-minute warning to stop you, to stop the clock. You can get the ball back. 3rd and 4, Marshall Falk up the middle for 6 yards. Game over.
Yeah, and it was 24-17. So
yeah, so it was still a touchdown lead. But I mean, well, the Rams at that point were in field goal range, so they could kick the field goal.
True.
But it took 3 knees, and that was the game.
It's definitely a different defensive approach than the Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to my point that I started with, is that what the Patriots learned from this game as well, being able to, one, kind of judge what they were getting themselves into, 2, know that they can kind of keep pace with this team and give Kurt Warner problems, because all the stats that they were showing were that this offensive production was way under what it usually is. Like all the averages were way lower playing this Patriots defense. So the Patriots defense knew that they could hang in there, and it's just up to the Brady and the offense to stop making these mistakes, stop fumbling it inside the 5. So you felt like you were kind of right there on the doorstep, but you also were able to figure out what else you needed to do to stop things like Marshall Falk going off.
I don't know. I think I kind of feel differently. I think it shows that I think the Rams made a lot of mistakes, made turnovers, and this game could have been a blowout. And they were like, "Ooh, I think we need to try something different if we're going to." And that's at home on the grass where you're slowing them down. You get them in a turf. New Orleans, they said, "All right, we got to slow down these, backs coming out of the thing by hitting them, getting up in the receiver's face on the line, like actually slow them down."
Well, yeah, I think, I'm sure we'll get to it when we get to the Super Bowl, but I feel like I remember 3 games of glory or something like that, where they talk about the first game, their defensive game plan was to get pressure on Kurt Warner and throw off his timing that way. And then when they realized that wasn't going to work because they couldn't get to him in the second half of this game, and he started carving him to bits, it was to disrupt the timing by hitting the receivers instead and chipping Marshall Falk wherever he went and making sure there was somebody there to take away that outlet too.
Allegedly.
This is the first half of that. But you're right, because they did show a stat where this greatest show on turf, like turf is actually a big part of that, because the offense as a whole is actually a TD worse, a touchdown worse in production, because they averaged, this is mind-blowing. They averaged 35 points per game on turf, or like since 99, and they were only averaging 28 points per game on grass, which...
And that 07 Pats played on turf.
That would be nasty.
That would be so awesome.
Oh, God. That would be unfair, I think. It was unfair. They scored 75 touchdowns that year.
I will say I thought this was a good Billism, but they were talking about that, leading up to this game, and I'm sure after that, Bill had the scout team face, when they're facing each other, the receivers were lining up at 3 yards ahead of the ball, just to spot that sort of speed that they don't have on the Pats to replicate that. But I thought it was funny that he's, thinking that far ahead, where he's creating these like weird parameters with the scout team.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's just one of those stories you always hear that makes you realize that Belichick is just like further ahead than his coaching counterparts, I think. Because he tries to make his starters practice at a disadvantage so that when they actually get to the game, they're either prepared for it or it comes easier to them because they've been playing at such a disadvantage all week.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Seems like a basic principle. Kind of surprised that more coaches aren't like ahead of the curve on things.
I mean, maybe they are. We just don't hear about it just because this is, Belichick's been here for so long, and so all these stories finally come out after guys retire, sort of thing,
That's what I think is like half of Belichick's success is like culture driven rather than him being a genius. Like half of being a good coach is getting player buy-in.
Yeah.
So success like this early on, you're basically setting yourself up for future success.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point.
I mean, I still think there is some genius in there. I mean, he's got his.
But I think a lot of coaches are genius that may not make it because they have a 1-2 year span to show improvement.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it's a difference of being a really good like offensive or defensive coordinator and being a really good head coach. Because head coach, you have to build that whole system of a team as well instead of just focusing on one or the other.
Yeah, it's probably circumstances too, right? You get a good owner that like gives you authority to make decisions,
Yep.
or you kind of hit on a Brady late in the draft, and
Right.
you turns out to be a gem.
Yeah.
Like
Or Russell
Things
Wilson
are-
or something, yeah.
exactly out of your hands, but you got to take those things and run with them.
Well, and
Oh,
I think
yeah.
there's something to be said for him being a genius because along with the culture, he cheats and
There it
he
is.
does it. He does it in a way that is actually brilliant because he'll cheat for however many years until it like doesn't work anymore, and then he'll get caught, and you think, "Oh my God, these guys again!" But then if you look at it the next year, like it motivates the crap out of the team because it's them against the world. So the guy uses cheating to his advantage, and then gets caught and uses it again. That's fucking genius,
Once he's done with it, he's like, all right, yeah, we can get caught doing this.
right? It's fucking great.
It helped them beat the Bengals this year. It's like,
Oh, yeah,
we
big time.
should send a film crew to the Bengals game.
Dude, he was
Week
meeting up
before.
with like Alex Cora a few times. I don't know if it's as big a deal in the future when you guys are listening to this. You can chime in, but we'll just leave it at that.
Oh, gosh. Man, that's a hot take. I like it. Mike's back.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm feeling good, baby.
Nice. All right, you boys have anything else you want to touch on? Anybody else you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, we never really talked about Kurt Warner at all.
No?
I mean, he's a pretty amazing story when you think of it.
It's
I mean,
true.
you want to share that story because I do think it's pretty badass.
Yeah, I mean, he was bagging groceries for $5.50 an hour, and then like 6 years later, he's like running the best offense in the NFL for 3 years
true.
straight.
I got to say, though, even in an NFL uniform, he still has that, like, grocery bagger look to him.
Dork.
Yeah, he just, like, I
What
don't
do
know
you
if it's like
mean
his
by that,
stance
Anthony? I don't
or
want to
what
offend
it
the
is.
grocery baggers out there. So can you elaborate on that, please?
I don't know if it's like his stance or just like his posture or just the way he moves, but like, he doesn't look like a world-class athlete to me. Maybe it's the fact that he has no chin and he tries to wear that like tiny little chin strap that Brett Favre used to wear. You know what I'm talking about? It's just like a piece of like a flap of leather underneath. I don't know what it is, but
I'm not sure.
he does not look like an athletic dude.
He just doesn't look cool. There is a definitely coolness factor for like athletes. Like Sam Bradford, not cool.
True.
Mahomes, he's cool.
Yeah,
He
he's
is cool.
Yeah.
But also like, yeah, he was bagging groceries. He was, arena football. He was in NFL Europe when that was a thing, all that stuff. But if
Mhm.
Trent Green doesn't go down with an injury, same thing. There's no Kurt Warner.
Mm.
So that's crazy. And that was
There's
like
no
early
Kurt
on.
Warner. There's no Patriots Super Bowl win in theory.
So we
There's
thought the
no, biggest
9/11
comeback.
started the dynasty, but it might have been Trent Green.
It might have been.
Well, fucking A.
All right. Well,
That's what I like about talking to you guys. We're always learning.
Wasn't it Rodney Harrison that hurt Trent Green too?
Was it?
Oh,
Oh,
I don't know. We got to look that one up.
are we all Googling right now? This is great radio. It was
fucking-
in 1999.
Are you
according to-
serious?
According to Google, here we go. In 1999, Green was slated to be the starter for the Rams, but suffered a gruesome season-ending knee injury in a preseason game on a hit by Rodney Harrison of the Chargers.
Wow.
That's why everyone says he's the dirtiest player in the league. Remember, he kept getting voted.
Well, what about
Oh,
Bernard
yeah.
Pollard? That guy sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking hell, yes. This is all on Wikipedia.
Wow. So Rodney Harrison started the Patriots dynasty.
Oh, wow.
Somebody tweet that out to him because that's unbelievable.
I'm gonna let you do it because I'm scared as shit of Rodney Harrison.
Dare I say, God bless.
Oh, you like Tubin?
What?
Oh, you like Tubin?
Say what?
What?
You haven't seen that commercial?
No.
I missed it.
He told you a lazy river if you wanted it. And Rodney got his drill and he's like, oh, you like Tubin?
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
No, you're gonna have to post that for us. We'll put it in the show notes. That sounds amazing.
Imagine if Rodney could knock the ball out of, a wedge between a hand and a helmet. He would be the greatest.
Yeah, he. Yeah,
Well, that's
he
for
would.
another day.
Yeah, I
Dude,
think it is.
No, Rod Pod?
The Rod Pod. Excuse you?
Kurt Warner's in this commercial.
Jesus. All right, you're gonna have to.
Oh,
send us
you're
a
right.
link and
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I don't. I have no
Where he's-
idea.
Yeah, he builds his own little man cave and he calls it the Rod Pod.
Yep. Oh, you're right. So they're both players. Man. Well, although that would make sense that Kurt Warner would be hanging out with them.
Mike,
Yeah.
football or not football? Rod Pod.
Rod Pod. I actually, this one is pretty easy for me because I did see the commercial, and what he's talking about is like, with the money that he has, he created this environment where it's kind of like a man cave.
Hmm.
So it's the Rod Pod.
What's the rod in this situation?
The Rod is it's Rodney. It's Rodney.
Oh, it's his nickname. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That
And
makes
Kurt
more
Warner
sense.
makes some joke about like a Hall of Fame jacket or something, and eats chips or something. I don't know, man. It's definitely football or not. I don't know, man. It's whatever I did.
We'll
Heard
go with that.
do commentary.
What was that?
Warner does I think he does the Monday night radio call for
Oh, yeah, he does something for like Westwood One or something, right?
Westwood One.
Yeah, I've heard. I've come across it randomly every once in a while.
He's better than the guys that got running the ESPN broadcast.
Well, yeah,
And
That's
he
true.
seems to be a Patriots fan, unlike Marshall Faulk and those guys that were part of that team. So I can respect him.
that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Oh yeah, you hate Falk, don't you, Andy?
Yes. But all right, this is a great segue. You ready for this? Speaking of douchebags on the Rams, how about Leonard Little?
Ugh.
That was pretty good, right? Did either of you go down the rabbit hole I did?
Nope.
You were doing it, so it's gonna let you run.
So Leonard Little is grade A douchebag. I don't even know. Kind of, let's say, a less successful Tyreek Hill, but worse.
Go on.
And by that, you
So-
mean enabling of domestic violence with pregnant girlfriends and beating kids and threatening women?
But worse.
Oh, wow. So shame on you, Kansas City, by the way. Shame on you.
Yeah. So when he was a rookie, his rookie season, Leonard Little, he went out. I don't know if it was after a game or something, but he went out something and he was drinking and was driving home drunk and collided with another car of a mother who was going to pick up her son from a concert and killed her.
Oh,
Yeah, drunk driving. And the quote that I found of him talking about it at the time said it was the family's deepest wish that Little, a 24-year-old rookie, be taken away to prison for a substantial period of time. It didn't seem an outrageous wish. This was a man who, according to the police report, was so indifferent at the time of the accident that he said of Susan, Gutweiler, the lady that he killed. The expletive ran a yellow light and hit me, wrecking my $45,000 expletive car.
Ran a yellow light.
All right, that's pretty douchebaggy. And he was only rookie.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he pleaded.
Oh man, should we have like an episode where we're just like outing every fucking douchebag so that like it's on the record that they are giant pieces of shit and we don't support them whatsoever? Because that sounds fun.
Yeah, we'll do that during the bye week. That's perfect.
Okay.
I've been looking for a bye week topic, so there it is. So here you go. So for that, how much time do you think he served? Or was
8 days?
Little pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 90 days in the city workhouse, 4 years probation, and 1,000 hours of community service.
Doesn't this kind of like sound a little bit like Dante Stallworth's issue? I mean, obviously, I don't think he was a douchebag, but
I mean, yeah, I mean,
similar.
Yeah, drunk driving is sadly a common occurrence in America for a variety of reasons. But I think just the fact that you're not contrite about it, I think is not great. But the other part of this is that this was not his only drunk driving offense.
Wait, did you? Sorry to backtrack, but did you say $45,000 car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That expensive?
No, it was some massive SUV. It was like a Lincoln something or other. So yeah, and his blood alcohol content was 0.19, which is well over the 0.08 in the state of Missouri. Okay. So yeah, he was suspended for 8 games in that 1999 season, and then other things that he had on his record on January 18th, 2003, according to Wikipedia. Little was charged with communicating threats and making harassing calls to his former girlfriend after the girlfriend ended their relationship. And then on April 24th, 2004, he was arrested again for, surprise, surprise, driving while intoxicated after being stopped by the police for driving 78 in a 55. At the time, he had red eyes, smelled of alcohol, and failed 3 roadside sobriety tests. He later admitted that he drank alcohol to the police, but he was convicted of a misdemeanor speeding, but acquitted of DUI basically because the police, I don't know, screwed something up and there was a loophole. But he was prohibited from drinking any sort of alcoholic beverage for his probation.
How long was this probation?
2 years.
No chance.
No, absolutely not. So
good driver.
So right, douchebag of the week goes to Leonard Little.
That's a good point. You can afford a $45,000 car, whatever that means. You can't get a driver. I mean, call a cab.
Yeah,
invent Uber.
So the article that I found was interviewing the dead mom's son, and that's basically what he said. He's like, "Why the fuck aren't you just renting a limo every time you go out?"
Wow.
Which can't argue with that.
Man, you know what I'm realizing? I'm realizing that in talking about football, there's a lot of dark moments on this podcast.
Yeah.
But we're going to try to navigate them properly and speak on it, but we're not authorities on this.
This is true.
We don't know shit. I think I can spot a piece of shit when I see one, but you never know.
Yeah. So I don't know if a lighter note's the right term, but on a karmic note, in the aforementioned list of Rams players that got injured, on there was Leonard Little, who had sprained his MCL in this game. So Patriots are karma for that shit. Try driving with a sprained MCL, bitch.
Yeah, fuck you.
All right.
Right, Mike?
What?
I know a scumbag when I see him.
Right. I was just jumping on your passion, Greg. So
there you go.
I mean, we could take it again. You start.
What am I starting?
Just anything. Like, how do you feel about Leonard Little?
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, you sounded like you felt pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's about time we wrap this up. Does any of you want to do your best and worst?
I don't have any.
That's a surprise.
I will say my worst, and usually I love this, but it was a little silly in this game. Teddy Bruschi was just throwing his body around for the hell of it, even when it wasn't near the football. So there's like one play where Marshall Faulk is, cutting back into his run or whatever, and Bruschi is just launching himself off screen. So,
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
This flash of white off to the corner.
Yeah.
Well, there goes Teddy Bruschi.
So I don't know if that was that great. And then the best for me was seeing the silver painted head fan guy.
Oh yes, and somebody had written on the top of his head, like coming up next Monday Night Countdown or something like that.
I didn't see that. That's
like they came back from a commercial and it was like just showing the top of his head and it said that and he lifted it up with that
I see.
sketchy look on his face. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that guy's name, but props to you. Unless he's a piece of shit, and then I take that back.
Yeah, well, his most famous picture is a mugshot.
What?
So, wait, is that actually him? The guy with the tattooed head?
Wait,
Yeah,
he has a mugshot? Oh man, see, I knew it.
I mean, I don't know.
I can't pull for anybody anymore.
Yeah, he's got a Patriots helmet like tattooed on his head too. He's bald.
Yeah.
Is that the same
Crazy.
guy though?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, well,
We're talking about the guy that painted his whole head silver. They look
There wasn't a
kind of similar, so it might be the same.
look,
guy.
I'll make the statement. I don't know him. I don't agree with anything that he's ever done in his life. I've seen him before in games, and it was nice to see him again.
Yeah, it was a blast from the past. All right. That's great. Greg, so you say you don't have a best and worst? You're not going to pull one out of your ass?
Now that you guys mentioned the fans, there was one, like, I don't want to body shame people, but he was a chubby guy, like, and his head was just big. And he had one of those little, like, old school, not like quite leather helmet, but the no mask.
Yeah.
And it squished his face into it. And, like, they threw him in the stand, and it just gave me a nice little giggle.
So it looked like Ben Roethlisberger, or no, who was it that not the Duck dude, but the other quarterback they started this year?
Rudolph?
Yeah, where he got the concussion and they had to take his face mask off, and he had that head that looked like he had to pour into the helmet in the first place.
Yeah, it just looks
horrible.
I don't stand by anything that's being said right now.
That's fine. Nobody cares.
I actually kind of look down on it a little bit.
I'm gonna cut that out that you said that anyway, so don't worry about it.
Oh God.
Say that again, Greg.
I was saying, if it was like the same situation as Rudolph, but it was Big Ben, with that face like spilling out of the helmet.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right. My best for this game was the live interactive polls on the challenges. Did you see this? Every time there was a coach's challenge, they'd show the referee like watching the game. They'd do the box, like the shots of both head coaches and stuff. But then when they came back from the challenge, I'm guessing you could like text in or something. It doesn't actually say, but it was the viewers' votes of let the play stand or overturn it, and it would show you the percentage, like how many people voted. So I think this was the screenshot that I have is of the Antoine Smith fumble. And out of 39,006 votes, 57% said overturn it and 43% said let the play stand. And why the fuck that isn't still a thing is amazing to me.
You should definitely still do that.
Right? Because, you could get so much like sports talk fodder out of that, especially if they get something egregiously wrong, like last year's NFC Championship game where it should have been pass interference. Like that sort of shit. Oh,
But maybe
let him decide. Let him make the call.
Yeah, but maybe that's
exactly that voting should be what results in the actual play.
Yeah, but now that you bring that up, I mean, remember the show Playmakers? How it was out for a season and then the NFL squashed that, and then there was a NFL Blitz, the video game, where you can do all kinds of messed up shit, and then they squashed that, and then now even in Madden, like they're pretty tight on certain things. So maybe for that reason, actually, they're like, you know what, fuck this.
Don't want to make your referees look bad. You might be right. That's a good point. All right. So that was my best. And my worst was our old friend Shank, Dan Shaughnessy. The day after the game is real immediate, just firing up that QB controversy machine. And I'm going to leave you with this quote from Dan Shaughnessy.
Well, then I'm gonna piggyback on this quote as well.
All right. Leave the Cadillac in the garage. The Toyota takes you around town, and it gets better gas mileage. Talking about Brady versus leaving Drew Bledsoe on the sidelines in a close game against a good team.
Yeah, who is he? Who's who in that?
Drew Bledsoe is the Cadillac.
Shank's such a fucking idiot.
Yeah, no kidding. So maybe we'll tweet this at him too. Like, still stand by this, you fucking moron?
Cadillac my ass, dude.
Right.
Well, and to piggyback on that, I thought I was kind of let down by this. But you know how, like, Brady, even throughout most of this, opportunity, he's been very confident. Everything that he says is like, basically, I'm the best. I'll learn from this, whatever. So Bledsoe, he had a quote where he was just talking about, what happens with playing time or whatever. And he says, I intend to make it very hard for Brady to stay on the field. But if he's playing better than I am, he'll keep playing. I was like, what kind of – all right, I'm not going to go crazy, but what kind of shit is that? Like,
no, I love that. That's exactly what you want.
Convince me that you want the time. Don't play PC.
That wasn't PC.
Yeah, it was. It was like, if he's playing better than me, then he'll keep playing. No, don't say that shit. Say, I'm gonna get the job. I'm gonna get the job.
No.
But Greg? What?
I'm with Andy. He's being realistic.
Yeah.
All right.
And he's also like not shitting on Tom Brady too.
Yeah, but here's the thing. All right. My uncle told me this once, and I don't know if it's true, but it doesn't matter because it still makes my point. He told me that there was this soccer player one time. He kicked a goal from midfield, right? And then he did it again. He did he shot 2 goals from midfield, won the game. And after the game, they said, hey, man, like, how did that happen? And then he said, it was luck. It can happen to anybody. And you know who that guy was?
Who?
No one knows because no one fucking remembers him. So you got to ham it up, baby. PR.
Dude,
that's such a typical Portuguese, like.
Whoa.
Of the story.
Dude, don't bring this into it, okay?
You know it's true.
What do you say, Greg?
Can't hear you, Greg. Say that again.
It's very Portuguese, like the I'm right, you're wrong.
All right. Whatever, man. I'm American, baby. So on that note, see you next week. Love talking to you guys. It's always a pleasure, even when it's not.
Hell yeah. I love it. Thanks for walking us out. What do we have to look forward to next week, Mike? Tell me about it.
Dude, the Patriots are playing this team, and that team, their guns are out, and they're just firing on all cylinders. So if that's not a teaser for you, I don't know what is.
They're coming marching in, if that helps.
Sure.
Easy.
Saints are coming marching into Foxborough Stadium.
Right.
The only team so far this year to have beaten the Rams that we just lost to. So we'll have that to look forward to next week on the episode of the Patriots Dynasty podcast. Greg, what?
Last thing. This is the last time that the Patriots have lost to the Rams.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That was worth stopping it. And now for the 4th attempt at exiting this podcast. Great hearing from you guys. Love you. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Bye.